Every single night, he used to dream of escaping his boring reality. He wanted so much to get Ice Guide into a fantasy world that he quit his job and searched all corners of the world to find it. And then, one day, his prayers were answered. This was not the dream he wanted. This was a nightmare. He got his fantasy world all right. But he was reborn as a barbarian named Cattle and thrown into a frozen hell called the White Wasteland, filled to the brim with all kinds of OP monsters. And for years, he's been trapped in this icy prison by a mysterious system, its message always the same. Quest incomplete. Well, today is just a typical Tuesday in the White Wasteland. Two barbarians stomp down on a giant scorpion monster and rip it apart. Then, our main character approaches calmly. A flash of purple light, he slashes the rest of the monsters to pieces. Only barbarians would be proud of being so ignorant. He sighs. What's ignorant? Can you eat it? The girl asks. Before he can even answer, they start chomping down on the foul, stringy monster meat like it's a 5-star meal. He's in total disbelief. Didn't I literally just tell you that thing would kill you if you ate it? It's been less than a week and here you are again, he growls. The girl and the bald dude give a proud thumbs up. It was a most noble challenge. Suddenly, the bald guy's face freezes. He starts convulsing and foaming at the mouth. He collapses and green bile erupts from his mouth. The girl panics, slapping him over and over. Watching this whole disaster unfold, Cattle just looks away. I'm going for a walk, he mutters. Bro has had enough of this life. Meanwhile, somewhere in the wasteland is a group of mercenaries. One is whining about the cold. Another one complains that crossing the wasteland is a suicide mission no matter the paycheck. The captain just shuts him down. You all knew what you signed up for, didn't you? Yeah, but we didn't know it would be this bad. The merc shoots back, shivering. Inside the warm carriage, an old butler listens to their bickering. He clears his throat and turns to his passenger, asking, Are you all right, my lady? A beautiful woman with blue hair, Melina Akasha, just smiles back. Yes, I am fine. He turns back to the mercs outside. They're just rude. But Melina says, Don't be so harsh. They're the only ones who would take this job. She looks out with concern. Shouldn't we let them inside? They look like they're freezing. No, the butler says firmly. My lady, you forget the legends of this place. Melina goes quiet. The monsters, you mean? The butler shakes his head. Worse. Do you remember the story of the emperor, the only person to ever return alive from this frozen hell? He rambled like a madman about all the monsters he'd seen, from giant serpents to earthquake-causing bears. But his final, desperate warning was this. The true danger wasn't the monsters. It was the barbarians. The butler just dismisses it. It's only a legend, of course. But Melina isn't so sure. Many of the monsters he described were later proven to be real. And yet, the butler laughs, no one has ever actually seen a barbarian. Melina has to admit he has a point. Suddenly, the mercenary captain yells out, Everyone halt. There's something out there, he says, his partner asking what he sees. They squint into the blizzard at a lone figure. I can't make it out. The captain's eyes widen. I've got good news and bad news, he says grimly. Just spit it out. Another merc yells. The captain replies, The good news is, it's small. The bad news, it's heading right for us. Instantly, everyone is on high alert, staring into the storm with fear and confusion. The captain draws his sword, his face tense as the figure gets closer and closer. He can finally see it clearly. It's not a monster. Is that a person? The man keeps walking, his white hair blowing and his bare chest showing off a warrior's build. It's Kettle, he stops, and his glowing purple eyes stare them down. Mercenaries snap to attention, completely stunned as the man approaches. They can't believe it, a barbarian, just like the legends. But dude just smiles. He went for a stroll because he got bored with his people. He didn't expect to bump into /U 2026 this. He flashes a charming smile and introduces himself. He is Kettle, the Ashen Barbarian. I'm pleased to meet you. Kettle sizes them up, asking if they're merchants with hired muscle. He offers some friendly advice. Turn back now, but he already knows they won't listen. Then, his eyes drift over to the carriage. He knows someone's inside. The captain starts to panic, but Kettle just grins and makes a shocking offer. I'd like you to hire me. The mercs are floored. Kettle clarifies that he wants to be their guy through this wasteland. The captain cautiously asks if he is an enemy. Kettle just smiles. If I were, you would all be dead by now. The threat hangs in the air, leaving the guards pale and totally speechless. The leader knocks on the carriage and asks his lady if she heard all that. Lena says she heard everything. The captain leaves the final decision up to her. She asks the most important question. What would happen if we tried to fight him? Looking at the imposing barbarian, the captain gives his honest assessment. I would definitely not recommend it. After a tense pause, Melina makes her call. Understood. Tell him we accept his offer. The captain walks back to Kettle and delivers the news. She agreed. Kettle's eye glows as a smile spreads across his face. Well now, that is great news. He takes a few steps forward, scaring the bejesus out of the mercs. Now he needs to talk to the real boss. The captain warns him not to pull anything, but Kettle just meets his glare with a confident grin. The captain has no choice but to lead him to the carriage. He shuts down their protests, saying their employer already agreed and fighting Kettle would be suicide. Inside, the butler is completely freaking out, but Milena tells him to calm down. Then, a knock comes from the door, and Kettle's voice rings out, "May I come in?" The butler lets out a high-pitched shriek, but Milena calmly replies, "Yes, come in." Outside, Kettle gives one last triumphant smile. His plan worked perfectly. The old butler is sweating bullets, looking absolutely terrified. Across from him sits Kettle, an absolute unit, just chilling with his arms crossed. The barbarian's voice is surprisingly calm as he speaks. He just tells the old man to relax. He promises he has no intention of harming him, but the butler isn't buying it for a second, inwardly screaming, "Don't lie to me." Meanwhile, the girl is just staring in shock. She can't believe a legendary barbarian is right in front of her. She manages to stammer out a greeting, and he just hits her back with a cool, "The pleasure is mine." Our guy looks out at the blizzard and notes how surprisingly warm it is inside. The blue-haired woman explains it's all thanks to magic, and he's genuinely intrigued. This guy's never seen real magic before. Looking back outside, he warns them that their chances of making it through are slim, but then he drops this line, "That's why I will protect your lives." However, there's a catch. He tells them there's just one condition. She nervously asks him what he could possibly desire. With a smile, he reveals his price. It's not gold or power. He just wants information about the world outside the snowfields. She is completely floored by this. Information. That's it. He just nods, knowing it's a pretty sweet deal for her. And yeah, what other choice does she have? She reluctantly agrees. He's pleased with her answer and asks for her name. She introduces herself formally as Melina of House Akasha. He grins right back, introducing himself as Kettle. The deal is sealed. We get a flashback to Kettle's previous life. He was a total fantasy nerd surrounded by games and books. Then one day, BAM. He just woke up as a barbarian in this frozen wasteland. There was no time for an existential crisis. The place was freezing and crawling with insane monsters. So he did what any MC would do. He became the leader of his tribe, fighting day in and day out just to survive and escape the snowfield. But every single time he tried to leave, a system window would pop up. It told him the quest was incomplete. Just as he was about to lose all hope, people from the outside finally started showing up. And that's when it hit him. The world beyond this snowy prison was the exact fantasy world he'd always dreamed about. From that moment on, he wasn't just surviving, he was grinding. He started completing quest after quest with one goal, getting out. Which brings us back to the present. You can see why information from outsiders like Melina is pure gold to him. Unfortunately, every other human he's met has either attacked him on sight or just gone completely insane from the cold. So yeah, he's just relieved to finally be having a civilized conversation for once. But then he changes the subject, noting that he can tell they're transporting a lot of weapons. He tells her he can literally hear the steel clanging in the wagons. The man has got super senses. So he cuts right to the chase and asks if there's a war going on in the outside world. Melina confirms it. The Empire and the Kingdom are at war. Kettle figures the outside world is not so peaceful after all. She explains the Empire has way more soldiers. But the Kingdom is holding on thanks to two things. Sword masters and a hero. Kettle's ears immediately perk up. Hero. A sword master. He needs to know what kind of power they have. Melina realizes he has no clue what she's talking about. She asks if he has ever heard of mysteries. So Melina breaks down the power system. It's all based on something called mystery. Only a tiny fraction of people can actually use this power and they're ranked into 5 tiers. First up is third rate. These guys can basically just sense the power, not really use it. Then you have second rate. This is where you can actually start using the power for real. Next up is first rate. These are your standard knights and mages manifesting their power as mana or aura. But after that, things get absolutely insane. The next ranks are for people who have broken past human limits. You've got the transcendent beings who can literally split the heavens. The Swordmaster is one of these monsters. And at the very top, the hero. A legendary being who doesn't just use power, they change the world itself. She finishes up by saying that even being a lowly third rate makes you a big shot in a small town. And after hearing all of this, Kettle's response is simple and absolutely epic. He just says, "I want to meet them." Melina is completely stunned. Did he just say he wants to go meet a god-tier being? But Kettle is dead serious. He's been trapped in this frozen hell for who knows how long, just trying to survive. He's stuck in his dream fantasy world, but it is a prison. His only real goal is to finally see what is on the other side. His expression hardens with pure determination. He declares that he really wants to get out of this place. Then he corrects himself with a confident smirk. No, he must get out. As the carriage rumbles on, Melina finally asks the question on her mind. Is he really the Barbarian? He doesn't deny it, pointing out that she clearly seems to have heard of him. She confirms it, telling him she knows him from the legend. Now Ketal is the one who's completely surprised. There is a legend about him. Melina can't believe it. How could he possibly not know his own legend? Ketal just laughs, remembering some crazy knight he met once. So that guy was the Emperor, he chuckles. He plays it cool though, smirking and telling her the legend is probably correct. But he quickly brings the conversation back to the important stuff. Why are they hauling all these weapons across a frozen wasteland? She clearly does not want to answer, stammering for a response. But Ketal's stare is intense, and she finally cracks. Her family is desperate for money. Turns out her family used to be rich merchants, but they got sabotaged by rivals and are now drowning in debt. Ketal's brain works at light speed. He immediately deduces she is selling weapons to the kingdom for their war against the Empire. His logic is flawless. The Empire has a huge army, so they do not need weapons. The kingdom, however, must be desperate for them. He notes that high demand and low supply means a huge price tag, big enough for her to risk her own life. He keeps going, guessing that her territory must border the Empire, forcing her to take this completely insane route. Melina is just speechless. All she can do is confirm that he's 100% correct. She's totally shaken. The legends painted him as a mindless brute, but this guy is an absolute genius. She wonders who he really is. But before he can answer, the carriage jolts to a stop. Then, a blood-curdling screech. While everyone else panics, Ketal remains perfectly calm. He knows exactly what is happening. They have got company. Out of nowhere, a monstrous black slime erupts from the snow. The entire party just freezes in absolute terror. Ketal just squints at it, but Melina confirms their worst fears. This thing is a legendary monster, straight from the history books. She explains this snowfield is a graveyard for powerful warriors. The few who survived all warned of this exact beast. But Ketal just grins like an absolute madman. He says, of course, they're chewy and make decent snacks. Melina's jaw just hits the floor. You eat them? He tells her to go catch it herself if she's interested, leaving her completely speechless. But the monster isn't waiting for a dinner debate. With a terrifying screech, it lunges straight for them. The guards immediately start to panic. Melina desperately screams Ketal's name for help. But Ketal doesn't even flinch. He just crosses his arms, saying he'll only step in if there's real danger. He tells a shocked Melina that her mercs can handle it. He wants to see what these outside world fighters are made of. The slime crashes down on them. The captain immediately shouts for a shield defense. A soldier gets his shield up just in time, bracing for the full force of the monster's charge. But it's not enough. The impact is insane, and the soldier gets sent flying backwards. Another warrior goes for a direct axe attack. He's also thrown back like a ragdoll, his weapon doing 0 damage. The leader thinks fast. He shouts that the slimes only move in straight lines. They need to scatter and coordinate their attacks. And it works. A spearman uses his weapon to vault right over the beast, landing a clean strike on its side. The monster shrieks in pain. The warrior sees his chance, channels energy into his spear, and lands an even bigger hit. With the slime staggering, the captain charges in with his own glowing sword. He yells for his men to press the attack. He shouts out its weak point, a hidden core. Powering up his blade, he unleashes a massive downward slash. It's a perfect hit. The attack shatters the red crystal core, and the monster starts to dissolve. Victory! The mercenaries erupt in cheers. But check out Keto, he just watches, completely unimpressed. The next challenge comes. Now it's a pack of giant wolves. One of the mercs gets cocky. He says maybe the rumors about this place were overblown. The captain immediately shuts him down. He warns the guy they are not even halfway there yet. Meanwhile, some of the mercs start whispering. They're getting suspicious of Keto, calling him a freeloader and wanting to test him. One of the mercs breaks off from the group. He walks right up to Melina, saying they need to talk. He reminds her they are risking their lives for this job. She gratefully agrees, saying they were the only ones brave enough. But there's one big problem he cannot ignore. The so-called Barbarian Kettle has not lifted a single finger to help. So he formally asks for permission to test Keto's skills. He wants to see if he deserves his special treatment. Melina looks totally stunned as the mercenary captain explains the situation. He sighs, admitting he tried to stop his men, but they just would not listen. But Keto just smirks, totally unfazed by the threat. So you want to test me? Fine by me. But not right now. The merc is completely caught off guard. Keto just looks up past them, axe in hand. Looks like you'll have to get in line. We've got company. Suddenly, a chilling presence looms over them all. A deep voice echoes. The frail mortals have arrived. The voice continues its creepy monologue. Looks like I'll be enjoying a rare delicacy today. Then, a massive white serpent erupts from the snow. It roars at them. Bark for me, mortals. Struggle all you want. It will only make you taste better. Melina lets out a piercing scream. The guards are doing everything they can to withstand the monster's power. But a commanding voice cuts right through the chaos. Enough. It's Kittle, and he looks seriously ticked off. He declares they're his guests, ordering the attacker to stand down. Why are you here? The snake hisses. Has he forgotten the laws of the land? He's way outside his tribe's territory. Kittle fires back that it's none of its business. This, of course, only makes the giant snake even angrier. With a massive surge of power, the creature reveals its true form, roaring. I am the snake. How dare you give orders to someone who was promised immutability? Kittle has heard enough. Then you need to be taught a lesson, he says, before throwing a punch that unleashes a devastating shockwave. The blast slams directly into the giant snake and creates a mushroom cloud of crackling blue energy. The sheer force of the impact is insane, sending the other barbarians flying backwards. Melina is knocked clean off her feet as one of her men screams her name in a total panic. When it's over, the snake's head is just a bloody mess in the snow. Kittle coldly remarks, "You're the type who only listens after a beating." Melina can only stare, completely stunned by the display of power. Lord Kittle, she whispers in disbelief. With his eyes now glowing a menacing purple, Kittle tells her he'll be right there after he finishes cleaning up the trash. He stomps the ground, shattering it with dark energy, then launches himself forward with blinding speed. Another massive explosion rocks the plains. A few minutes later, Melina and the butler are shocked. The mercs are now begging Kittle for forgiveness. Inside the warm carriage, Kittle is surprisingly calm. He tells them he understands not trusting a total stranger. The journey continues and somehow the butler has been kicked outside. Poor guy. Kittle turns to Melina, his expression dead serious. That said, there is something I am curious about. He asks why a noble lady like her would personally risk her life on such a dangerous trade mission. She hesitates for a moment, then admits she's the daughter of a concubine, basically the second wife of Lord Akasha. She explains that her mother was used in a political marriage and then totally abandoned, left with zero power. Clenching her fist, she confesses they're treated like servants. They're basically family in name only. I volunteered for this trade mission, she declares, which clearly catches Kittle completely off guard. Her reason is simple but powerful. Because someone has to set an example. A small smirk plays on Kittle's lips. He calls her intelligent, ambitious, and a greedy one. Melina is totally floored by his words. But before she can respond, a sudden jolt from the carriage interrupts her. A voice calls out that they've finally arrived. Stepping outside, her men just gasp in total awe. The endless blizzard has completely vanished, replaced by a vibrant, lush green valley stretching out before them. After thanking Kittle, Melina says her trip back will be easy, since she won't be packing weapons after selling the goods. But she can't let his earlier comment go. She turns and asks what he meant by calling her ambitious. He says he meant exactly what he said. He knows her once powerful family is now on the brink of financial ruin. He connects all the dots. If she succeeds where the main family fails, she'll win everyone's loyalty. He asks, "Your goal is to seize control of your family, isn't it?" She admits he's right. Kittle just smirks, noting that the story of a cast-off heir rising to power is a classic. Melina is shocked. This barbarian is genuinely smart. He's way more clever than anyone she has ever met. Thinking of the incredible power he has, an idea sparks in her mind. She asks if he's ever thought about leaving the snowfields. "How would you like to join me?" she asks boldly. He turns her down for now, saying he still has things he needs to take care of. Melina gracefully accepts his answer. She then removes an ornate emblem from her neck, offering it to him as a token of their meeting. She tells him to show it to the Akasha family if he ever decides to come to the outside world. Kittle accepts the gift with a huge grin. They part ways, hoping they'll meet again someday. He watches as her carriage disappears into the lush valley, leaving the endless snow behind. 5 years pass and back in the endless land of snow, a declaration is made. Finally, all conditions have been met. A series of system notifications suddenly pop up, confirming a quest is complete and the rewards have been distributed. And then the message he has been waiting for finally appears. You may now leave the snowfields. Kittle stands at the edge of the snowy wasteland, ready to finally step into the fantasy world of his dreams. With a confident smirk, Kittle looks ahead, totally ready for a new beginning. It's time to take his first step into the fantasy world. In a vibrant green forest, Kittle takes a huge breath. He's finally savoring the sense of a new world. The smell of grass, wild beasts, and fresh river water, it's a world away from the frozen wasteland he escaped. He cracks open his eyes, a massive grin spreading across his face. Nice. Very nice. But then, his whole vibe shifts. He whips around, his eyes locking onto a frozen mountain peak in the distance. "You cursed snow! Let's never meet again!" he roars, finally tasting freedom. This is the fantasy world he's always dreamed of. A land of pure wonder he thought was impossible to reach. The journey here was a total nightmare, but he survived. And now, he's going to enjoy this world to the absolute fullest. I'm talking magic, swords, dragons, and elves. The whole fantasy package. That burning desire for a new life was the only thing that kept him going. Back in the snowy plains, just wanting to survive was never enough. As he wanders through this paradise, something shimmering in the distance catches his eye. That glow. It's gotta be a village. Finally, civilization. Bro is absolutely ecstatic. Finally, a civilized village in this world. He flashes back to trying to talk with the barbarians back home. They just stared at him like he was speaking gibberish. Man, he misses actual conversation. He starts rehearsing his intro. Should he go with a simple hello? Or the classic ice guy? What world is this? He decides to just play it cool and be a gentleman. With a plan in mind, he starts sprinting towards the lights. Meanwhile, in a peaceful clearing, an elderly elf addresses his people. "Elf villagers," he declares. "From now on, this will be our home." The entire crowd of elves erupts in cheers. They're overjoyed to finally have a new place to call their own. But one of the younger elves isn't so sure. He approaches the elder, looking worried. "Elder, is this place really safe?" The elder shoots him a confident look. "It is." But the young elf isn't convinced. "I know humans can't come here, however. The snowy plains are right there. It's way too close. What about the monsters that live there?" The elder just scoffs. "Not a problem. For thousands of years, nothing has ever crossed those plains. Besides, we put up a barrier just in case." He explains it's a powerful barrier, woven from ancient elven magic. It completely hides their presence and stops anyone from getting close. And even if something did get through, he adds, it wouldn't matter. Because we have Her Majesty the Queen. He smiles, totally certain that no threat could ever possibly reach their village. He is about to be proven very, very wrong. Right on cue, Kettle walks forward and feels his hand pass through something strange. It felt like tearing a piece of fabric. He pauses, totally confused. Felt like something just tore. Did I touch something? He just shrugs it off and keeps moving. But then a sudden sound makes him freeze in his tracks. Peeking through the grass, he spots a small child with pointed ears. Wait, is that an elf? He absolutely can't believe his eyes. A real elf. One of the most iconic fantasy races ever. He never dreamed he'd meet one this fast. Talk about incredible luck. For the first time, he's truly glad to be alive. But the little elf child is completely lost and on the verge of tears. "I'm scared. I think I wandered too far." Suddenly, she hears a voice right behind her. Her eyes go wide with pure shock. Kettle is looming over her, his massive frame casting a terrifying shadow. All he says is a friendly, "Hello?" The poor girl is completely petrified by the sight of him. And then she just faints from the sheer terror. Kettle just stands there, holding the unconscious child. A single bead of sweat rolls down his face. What just happened? I didn't even get to say anything, and she fainted. He thinks. Well, I guess I should probably take her back to the village. He's already picturing the scene. He returns the lost child, and the grateful elves welcome him as a hero. He smiles to himself, already looking forward to that warm welcome. Cradling the sleeping child in his arms, he confidently walks into the elven settlement. The welcome he gets is not what he expected. The elves start screaming in absolute terror. "A human, and he is my child." Instantly, spears are pointed right at his face. They demand to know who he is and how he shattered their barrier. Yeah, this is not going as planned. The child's mother screams in pure horror, her face a mask of absolute fear. The elder is in total shock. Impossible. This land is untouched by humans. The barrier was perfect. How did he get in? He realizes the barrier is cracked and starts to panic. He screams for the queen, but she's out on patrol. Of course she is. Kettle tries to explain he's not an enemy, but they're not listening. An elf just screams, "Give back the child, or we'll hunt you down." The elder's mind is racing. Their barrier was ancient magic. No simple trick could have broken it. He comes to the only logical conclusion. This was a prepared attack. The humans must have been tracking them for years. Kettle is just baffled. Do I really look like a kidnapper? He knows he needs to clear this up, and fast. Just then, the little girl in his arms starts to wake up from her stress nap. He gently places her on the ground. "Go on," he says with a kind smile. "Go back to your family." The child looks up at his kind face, and her brain immediately registers him as a terrifying shadowy demon. So naturally she lets out a blood-curdling scream and sprints back towards her parents. Kettle is completely crushed. Is my face really that scary? I thought I looked pretty good back on the plains. He turns back to the elves with his hands up. Look, I returned the child. As you can see, I'm not your enemy. But the elder isn't having it. The hostage is free. Everyone, attack. In perfect unison, the elven archers draw their bows, taking aim at our completely bewildered hero. Fire. A glowing volley of magic arrows rains down from the sky, heading straight for Kettle. And he just stands there, totally dumbfounded. Can they literally not hear me? Kettle realizes elves aren't what he expected. They're way more savage out here. He always thought they were a gentle people. But in the wild, it's kill or be killed. So as arrows rain down, Kettle just stands there, totally unfazed as they bounce right off him like they're Nerf bullets. His attackers are getting desperate. They scream to keep firing, convinced his barrier has a limit. Kettle's had enough of this. He calmly raises a hand, ready to shut this little party down. And in a single instant, he unleashes a massive shockwave. The blast absolutely obliterates the elves' position, tearing the forest apart. The elven archers get sent flying. One of them screams for a barrier, but it's way too late for that. Trees are ripped from the ground as the elves are tossed through the air, screaming in terror. This wave of destruction carves a huge path straight through the woods. When the dust finally settles, an old elf can only stare in total disbelief. What just happened? At the end of the trench, he just made stands Kettle. He calmly tells them, I am not your enemy. Then he gets a little awkward, admitting, whoops, I guess I used a little too much power. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a flaming phoenix arrow comes screaming right for his head. It connects and erupts in a massive explosion right where he was standing. The old elf and his companion are completely confused. Just then, an elegant elven woman lands gracefully on a nearby cliff. And it's none other than Helia Royce, the queen of the elves. She demands to know what's going on. The elder immediately shouts that a human attacked them. The queen's face goes cold. She realizes this place isn't safe for them either, but Kettle just walks out of the smoke without a single scratch. Hey wait, I'd appreciate it if you could listen to what I have to say. The queen and the elder are absolutely floored. How is he unharmed after a direct hit from Her Majesty? The queen glares down from her cliff. She thinks even a powerhouse like him is after her people. Her eyes fill with disgust. You can tell she truly despises humans. She introduces herself as Queen of the Leaf Clan and knocks another arrow. Aiming a fiery arrow right at him, she declares he will pay the price for his greed. Kettle is completely lost. Can't they understand me? But we're speaking the same language. Is she just ignoring me? Or could it be that the relationship between human and elves is just that poor? He sighs, realizing talk isn't working. He remembers a lesson: people listen once you land a hit. The queen lets her arrow fly and it crackles with brilliant blue energy. But this is no ordinary arrow. It transforms into a massive, roaring spectral beast. And Kettle's response? He just clenches his fist, gathering an insane amount of power. He throws a single punch and a devastating beam of pure force slams right into the magical beast. The elf queen can only stare, her face a mask of pure, absolute shock. Kettle's attack completely overpowers hers. Whoops. Looks like he did it again. The resulting explosion obliterates the spectral beast and slams right into the elf queen. She is slammed into the ground, defeated and surrounded by rubble. And Kettle just scratches his cheek, wondering if maybe he should have held back even more. The queen looks up, pale with fear. She is completely and utterly speechless. She realizes he's on the level of a transcendent. Why would someone so strong be here? Sweating, she makes a desperate call. She tells everyone to get away immediately. Her people are shocked, but she screams at them again, ordering them to flee for their lives. As her people run, she turns to face Kettle, defiantly yelling that he will never accomplish his goal. Kettle is more lost than ever. He was just trying to talk. This has all gone completely sideways. But the queen isn't listening. She closes her eyes and begins a powerful incantation. Her eyes snap open, unleashing a massive eruption of pure fire. From a magic circle, a colossal bull made of fire appears. Pigo. Kettle's eyes light up with pure excitement. A summon. He looks like a kid on Christmas morning. He thinks back to the ugly, grotesque monsters from his home in the frozen tundra. But this? A majestic bull with horns made of blazing fire? This is something else entirely. He thinks to himself. Now that's a spirit. This is what a real fantasy world is all about. The queen gives her final order. Pigo. Annihilate the enemy before you. But the highest grade fire spirit just grumbles, complaining that contracts are nothing but a hassle. The queen immediately cuts him off, simply saying, silence. She knows that the stronger and more ancient a spirit is, the bigger its ego. She can barely even summon this thing and only got the contract with help from another tribe. Fulfill the contract, Pigo, she commands. Her voice leaves no room for argument. The spirit stomps its hoof, ready to fight. So, I just have to kill the human, right? But then it gets a good look at its target, and it completely freezes up. Because Kettle is standing there engulfed in a dark aura, flashing a terrifying razor-toothed grin. The mighty spirit is shaken to its very core. It thinks to itself, is that thing even human? A gigantic flaming bull spirit burst from a magic seal, roaring with raw power. Kettle is absolutely losing his mind. This is straight out of a fantasy novel, and he's seeing it for real. But his fanboy moment is cut short when a voice calls him. You human have intruded upon our land. The fiery bull, Pigo, glares down at him. A pathetic human dares to covet the races of nature. It threatens to turn him into ash, but Kettle is just completely unfazed. Bro is just confused. Pigo doesn't wait for an answer. Its eyes glow with pure fury. It digs its hooves into the ground, charging up an insane amount of power before it attacks. And it's off. The spirit beast launches forward like a blazing meteor ready for total annihilation. But Kettle doesn't even flinch. He just braces for the impact. The collision is insane, tearing the very earth apart. The elf queen nearby gets thrown back by the sheer force of the blast. She looks up, and what she sees is completely unbelievable. Somehow, Kettle caught the charging bull with one hand. He just grabbed it by the horn. This absolute unit of a beast is just suspended in mid-air. Its charge completely negated. Kettle just cracks this chilling smirk. He thinks a beastly form just makes it easier to handle. His eyes flare with purple energy as he cocks back his fist. His logic. Just beat it to death. The elf can only watch in absolute horror. She can't believe what she's seeing. And with a single punch, Kettle connects. A blinding flash of light erupts from the impact. The shockwave carves a massive trench straight through the entire forest. This explosion is so huge you can see it from space. It looks like a mushroom cloud. Back on the ground, the landscape is completely obliterated. The elf screams as the fiery aftermath rushes towards her. When the dust finally settles, she collapses to her knees, staring at the devastation. She can only whisper, "This can't be real," gazing at the massive crater he left with one punch. She looks up at Kettle, who's just standing calmly at the crater's edge. Absolutely terrified, she lowers her head and begs him to spare her people. But Kettle calmly looks down at her. He says, "I am not your enemy, elf." She looks up, completely stunned by his words. What is happening? Turns out, this was all a massive misunderstanding. A really, really bad one. She bows her head in shame, apologizing for judging him so quickly. She explains they thought he was an enemy because he just returned a lost elven child. Now she feels terrible. Kettle gets it. Other humans drove them to be this cautious, but he's still a bit bummed they didn't let him explain. She asks cautiously, just to be sure, he's really not one of the humans chasing them, right? He confirms it's his first time even seeing an elf. He's from the White Wasteland, where they don't exist. Her eyes go wide. The White Wasteland? Kettle just owns it. The Ashen Barbarian of the Wasteland. That's what they call me. She's in total disbelief. She didn't even think humans could survive there. She asks if others could have come from the wasteland too. Is there an army of Kettles out there? Kettle just crosses his arms. Who knows? But I seriously doubt it. He explains the wasteland has strict rules that even giant, powerful serpents can't defy. But for some reason, a special hidden quest allowed him to bypass those rules. He's pretty sure that was a one-time thing though. A very rare exception. The elf breathes a sigh of relief. Then Kettle asks if the creature she summoned was okay. He starts sweating a little, remembering he, kind of punched that bull in half. She tells him not to worry. It was a spirit, not a summon. Forcibly unsummoning it just sends it back home. Feeling like she owes him big time, she offers to do whatever she can to help him. Now Kettle's interest is piqued. A spirit, huh? He immediately wonders if non-elves can make contracts with spirits too. The elf's face falls. She tells him that might not be possible. She clarifies that only humans with a deep connection to nature can do it. So for a guy like him, it's probably impossible. She trails off, but then she gets an idea. If you really want to contract a spirit, she says, go to Elfo Sagrado. Kit all repeats the name, intrigued. It's the holy land of all elves, where their god lives. If it's possible anywhere, it's there. Kettle is hyped, but he's gotta ask, would a human even be allowed in a holy elven land? Normally no way, but with her introduction, it should be fine. She'll tell him the secret location. This place, Elfo Sagrado, is the dream destination for anyone who studies elves. She explains that letting a human near a place more precious than life is a huge risk. No elf would normally do this. But still, she wants to believe in him. She wants to trust him. Take this with you, she says, offering him the glowing red crystal. He gratefully accepts the gem, a sign of their new alliance. She warns him that even if he gets there, the elven god might still test him. But she has a feeling he'll pass. She wishes him luck, and Kettle thanks her. She finally introduces herself as Marsilia Hazian Karuja, the queen of the elves. That's right, the queen. He just gives a confident grin back. Kettle the Barbarian. And without another word, Kettle stomps his foot, shattering the ground beneath him. He launches himself into the air like a rocket, leaving a trail of blue energy. His eyes are glowing as he rockets through the forest canopy. He's moving so fast he's just a blur, the trees streaking by in an instant. From above, he looks like a freaking comet, carving a path through the landscape with a massive shockwave. Meanwhile, at the border of the Varkan territory, a sudden powerful tremor rocks a fortress. The guards are panicking. They have no idea what's happening, only that something is coming fast. A massive object plummets from the sky, leaving a trail of smoke as it heads straight for them. With a heavy thud, a figure makes a superhero landing, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. The guards are completely frozen in terror. They know exactly who just dropped in on them. So Kettle just casually rocks up to the guards and says hi. Nice to meet you. The guards are floored. They're all thinking, the loud noise we heard just now, was it him? One guard squints, getting a better look. Okay, ash-gray hair, big ol' scar on his chest, the gears are turning, and then it hits him like a ton of bricks. Wait a minute, could this be the legendary Ashen Barbarian? Our boy takes one tiny step forward, and bam, the guards pull out their swords like their lives depend on it. He just throws his hands up. Oh whoa, chill out guys. I am friendly, I promise. The lead guard isn't buying it. He is still tense, demanding to know what this giant wants. The barbarian just points, not at them, but past them, right at the castle wall. He goes, I would like to visit your territory. The guards just stare, completely baffled. Is this guy for real? Next thing you know, he is in an interrogation room. The guard's like, so, you just want to pass through, right? If possible, I'd like to stay for a bit, he says. Then he drops his name, Kettle. Guard asks for ID. Kettle's response, don't have any? Of course he doesn't. But then a memory hits him. A flashback to Myelina giving him this fancy-looking crest. Back to reality, he slaps the crest on the table. Will this work? He asks. The guard is shocked. Kettle explains it is from House Akasha. A pretty big deal, apparently. And the guard knows the name. A powerful merchant family from another kingdom making moves. He is still skeptical though. It looks real, but verifying it from another kingdom is a pain. Finally, he agrees. But of course there's a catch. There is always a catch. They need Kettle to prove he is not a threat. The test. Team up with 3 other randos, form a party, and clear a dungeon to prove their worth. Kettle thinks this sounds ridiculously easy. Sure, why not? He says with a bright smile. Ah, but here is the fine print. After the dungeon, he has to report everything that went down. Kettle gets it immediately. It is a clever plan to make all the new guys spy on each other. Smart. The guard is a little flustered that he figured it out so fast. Are you really a barbarian? Kettle proudly confirms it. I am. The guard is floored. He thought barbarians were just dumb brutes. He wraps things up real quick after that. Meanwhile, in the waiting room we meet our next winner. Alessandro Tyrannis, a so-called paladin, entering a dungeon with a rat that goes after people's pouches. This is so tragic, he mutters. A thief named Kassenhark hears him and immediately starts roasting him. You picking a fight, old man? You mad cause a thief ripped you off? Tyrannis explodes, calling him a bastard. Kason just laughs, pointing out how ragged his armor is. Was he even a real paladin? He even calls Tyrannis a bottom feeder, just like him. Oh, the paladin is fuming now. But the last straw is when Kasson makes fun of his name. That is it. Sword is out. Kasson grins, totally ready for this. He pulls out a dagger dripping with poison. You think your tin can armor can protect you from this? He challenges. Their blades clash, but a third person steps in to break it up. A nun, of all people. Could you please stop? Meet Hayes the cleric. She is already wondering how she is supposed to clear a dungeon with these 2 clowns. She knows they're waiting on one more person and she is already dreading who it could be. Just then, the door opens. The guard announces their final party member has arrived. And in walks a massive shadow of a man with glowing purple eyes. Talk about an entrance. The whole room freezes. They're just staring, completely stunned by the size of this absolute unit. And then Keitel breaks the silence with a giant friendly smile. Hey are you guys my new party? They are terrified. Tyrannis is thinking he is huge. Hayes is wondering if he is human and Kasson just feels the pressure. The guard dips out, leaving them to get acquainted. Keitel, completely clueless, happily starts introductions. Hi, I'm Keitel. I'm a barbarian. He looks at Kasson, who is sweating buckets as he stammers out that he is a thief. Next up is our armored buddy puffing out his chest. I am a paladin, Alessandro Tyrannis. Keitel immediately latches onto that. Oh, a paladin. So you use holy power? Tyrannis starts sweating. Well, normally yes, but I am a special kind of paladin so I can't use it. The nun steps up, looking a bit nervous. I am Hayes, a cleric of Kalosia. Ketel's face gets serious. A cleric, and they're still questioning your identity. She gets all flustered. Well, my god is the god of lies and deceit, so yeah, he is not super popular. Ketel just says I see, and the rune goes dead silent. A paladin with no holy power and a cleric of lies? What a team. Thankfully, the guard saves them from the awkwardness. Everyone ready? Let's go. They all exchange looks and nobody seems happy about this at all. Hayes and Casson look especially miserable. They are definitely wondering what they did to deserve this. After a short walk, their hooded guide stops. We are here. Ketel looks up, and he seems a little surprised by the view. They're in a forest clearing, staring at a dark cave. Yep, this is the dungeon they're supposed to clear. Aight, let's start the raid. What's the plan? Ketel asks Casson and dude just flinches. He stammers and calls the Barbarian, sir. Ketel just laughs it off. He tells Casson to chill with the formalities since they're a team now. Totally embarrassed, Casson tries to play it cool and starts laying out the strategy. His plan is classic RPG 101. The warriors are on the front line, thief checks for traps, and the cleric supports from the back. Solid, right? Ketel's totally on board with it, but Casson looks like he's already regretting this whole adventure. With the quote-unquote plan set, Ketel takes the lead and gets ready to charge in. The team ventures into this dark, icy cave. And of course Hayes is already spooked, whispering about how dark it is. Meanwhile, Casson's spidey senses are tingling. He thinks the lack of traps is way too suspicious. And bam, he spots something. He throws a hand out to stop Ketel, warning him there are monsters ahead. Ketel looks down and sees bone fragments everywhere. Yep, it's a skeleton party, and they're about to get up and attack. Casson immediately realizes this is a setup. This wasn't a test, my friends. It was an ambush meant to get rid of them. Ketel is super curious. Skeletons, you say? Casson explains that skeletons are no joke. Apparently they're like the Terminator, they just keep coming even if you chop off their limbs. Plus their bones give them a massive defense buff. The difficulty of this dungeon just spiked through the roof. So Casson snaps into leader mode, telling the cleric to get her buffs ready to go. He tells the warrior to tank up and for Ketel to get ready for a fight. Ketel just says got it, thinking Casson is some kind of tactical genius. The irony is just beautiful. Alright, it's showtime. Ketel steps forward. That one step is all it takes. His skeleton starts to wake up. Ketel's face is pure amazement as the skeleton clatters to life. The rest of the team are in a panic and getting ready to fight. The skeleton warrior charges right at Ketel, swinging a sword that's bigger than my student debt. But Ketel just slaps it and bam. One punch is all it takes to absolutely shatter it. Oopsie. The skeleton is now a glittering pile of bone dust. And the rest of the party? Their jaws are on the floor. Just pure, unadulterated shock. Ketel just smirks and says, huh, so taking the head off really does work. No kidding, Sherlock. Casson looks completely defeated. That's not what I meant at all. See, what Ketel just did should be impossible. These skeletons are buffed with dungeon mana, making their bones super hard. Normally you would have to chop at their neck like a lumberjack. One-shotting a skeleton is literally impossible. Casson is just stunned. He knew the guy was strong, but this is a whole other level of overpowered. Now the entire team is shaking in their boots, wondering if this absolute monster is even human. Meanwhile, Ketel just cracks his knuckles and grins. Alright, let's keep this party going. The others immediately snap to attention and scramble to follow him. He tells them there is no need to rush, but his terrified teammates just salute and scream. Yes, sir. Yeah, their inner monologue is pretty simple. They just really don't want to die here. A short while later, Ketel stops dead in his tracks with a puzzled look on his face. His foot bumped into something. The entire party just freezes, staring down at this new terrifying skull on the ground. And just like that, another skeleton clatters to life. The team looks on in pure horror. Yep, round 2 is officially starting. But Ketel turns to them and calmly asks for a favor. In the middle of an undead ambush, he wants to fight them all by himself. Apparently, our boy wants to test out something. They just quickly agree. Smart move, folks. Ketel thanks them, and his eyes start glowing with this intense purple light. This is about to get good. He casually strolls up to the skeleton while the party watches from a safe distance, wondering what this dude was up to. He gets right up in its face, checking it out like a science project. He is genuinely curious how it is put together. The skeleton is not having it and takes a swing. But Ketel just stops it mid-swing, with 2 fingers. He breaks the blade in half and looks at the skeleton, basically asking, what now? A broken blade won't stop old Skelly here, so it lunges and takes another swing. But instead of dodging, Ketel just grabs the skeleton by the wrist. He flashes this brilliant smile and says, then how about this? Oh, he is enjoying this way too much. And crunch. He completely breaks the skeleton's hand and it falls to the ground. He watches it, completely intrigued. The poor skeleton just stares at its broken hand, totally confused. You can see the question marks above its head, but confusion quickly turns to rage. It lets out a battle cry and swings its massive sword with its other hand. It even does a fancy weapon toss, catching it in its good hand to keep fighting. That's some serious skill for a pile of bones. Keatle is actually impressed. He's like, "Oh, so you know how to switch hands?" The skeleton charges, but its attack is stopped dead. Keatle just casually catches its wrist. With basically zero effort, he breaks off the other hand and the skeleton is sent staggering back. But wait, it's not done yet. The skeleton lunges again, this time using its arm as a sword. Keatle is amazed. It can substitute parts of itself as weapons. Its intelligence is quite high. This brutal display is a little too much for the party, who look like they're about to lose their lunches. They can only watch and tremble in silence. This guy is a true barbarian. And man, do we feel sorry for that poor skeleton. With a menacing crack, our glowing-eyed barbarian puts the poor skeleton in his place. Its skull rattles to the ground and get this, it starts rolling around. Our MC is amazed. So it can move with only its head. Amusing, he mutters. And crunch. He stomps on the poor thing. Then his entire vibe suddenly shifts from psycho killer to friendly neighbor. He apologizes for the delay. Casson, who's still about to wet his pants, frantically insists it is no problem at all. Thanks I guess. Castle replies. Then he turns to leave. Alright then, time to go. The rest of the party nervously agrees. Like they have a choice. A while later, the group comes to a halt at the base of a huge staircase. They finally reach the second floor. Great. More stairs. The atmosphere is tense and the whole party looks exhausted from the climb. Casson cautiously suggests they take a little break. And to his absolute relief, Keatle actually agrees. Casson weeps with gratitude. As the party collapses, Keatle just sits and observes. He breaks the silence, saying he has a question. He even admits he's not very knowledgeable on the subject. Oh, this should be good. Hayes is a bit flustered but encourages him, saying a desire to learn is a virtue. She then asks what he wants to know. Keatle asks a surprisingly logical question. Why is a dangerous dungeon allowed to exist so close to a populated town? Hayes explains that monsters generally stay inside. Any exceptions are handled quickly. Casson jumps in, explaining that dungeons are a natural phenomenon. They can look like caves or even massive towers of doom. The key detail, he adds, is that they tend to pop up near densely populated areas. How convenient for our heroes. Hayes continues, saying that when a dungeon appears, the local lord sends in mercenaries like them to go clean it up. Keatle clarifies, so dungeons never appear directly inside a town but always a certain distance away. Alessandro confirms this. Suspicious, right? Suddenly, Keatle's eyes light up. He asks the most important question of all. Is there a reward for clearing them? Hayes confirms that for a dungeon this size, defeating the final boss would probably yield some seriously hefty loot. A dark, knowing smile creeps across Keatle's face. He thinks to himself, just like the game. Hayes overhears him but he quickly plays it off. Says he was just talking to himself before changing the subject. He then asks a question that leaves everyone stunned. Who is it that makes these dungeons? Now we're talking. Hayes replies that dungeons are just natural. But Keatle isn't buying it for a second. He says there are too many oddities. He points out that they conveniently appear near towns, almost as if they're demanding to be explored and tempting people with treasure. For a natural event, he concludes, it feels far too deliberate. And you can see the realization just hit Hayes like a truck. She's totally shocked. She admits she'd never even thought to question something so fundamental. Welcome to the conspiracy club, Hayes. Casson is having a similar crisis. He always figured barbarians were ignorant savages, but this line of questioning is anything but. Remembering how cruel this guy can be, he starts to wonder if Keatle is truly a typical barbarian at all. You think? Casson's train of thought is interrupted by Keatle cheerfully asking if everyone's rested. Talk about a mood shift. Startled out of their philosophical funk, the party members quickly agree they're ready to move on. They just want to get out of here. The party ventures deeper into the dungeon, but then Keatle suddenly stops in his tracks, looking surprised. He's spotted a large treasure chest. Casson tells him it's a dungeon reward, his for the taking if he can unlock it. But there's no chance in heck they can open this chest. They'd need a high-level rogue for that. Just then Keatle turns to him and asks him, Casson, can I unlock it? Oops. Casson is completely dumbfounded. Keatle just lays out the simple logic. That's a treasure chest, and you are a rogue. Can't argue with that. Keatle is genuinely excited, saying it is a rogue's job to handle chests, right? But Casson starts to sweat pure panic. He panics internally, screaming that if he had skills to actually unlock a chest like that, he would not be a bottom feeder stuck in a low-level dungeon. Casson is freaking out. He cannot possibly tell Keatle the truth. Not when the big guy is looking at him with such pure, sparkly-eyed expectation. His mind flashes to the worst-case scenario. Keatle's disappointment turns into a cold, deadly glare, calling him useless before crushing his skull. With a strange, sweaty smile, Casson forces out a laugh and agrees to give it a shot, all while crying his eyes out on the inside. As he kneels, Keatle leans in close, watching with intense curiosity. Talk about pressure. Casson is pretty sure he is not getting out of this alive if he fails. He desperately tries to recall the lock-picking skills he saw other adventurers use back when he was just a porter carrying their junk. With shaky hands, he begins to work on the lock. The sound of metal scraping echoes in the quiet dungeon. As Keatle looms over him, radiating a dark, impatient aura, Casson realizes this is it. He has to risk his life on this one shot. This is the moment of truth for Casson the Rogue.